Hey everyone! Today we're exploring another chilling and disturbing case. If you'd like to support the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay engaged. It really means a lot. I truly appreciate it. Now, take a deep breath and let's dive in. She woke up every morning to a woman she called Mommy, never knowing that woman had bludgeoned her real mother to death just weeks earlier. The truth wasn't just horrifying, it was hiding in plain sight. Danielle Pierce was the kind of woman people admired. At 33, she was a devoted wife, a mother of two, and a respected school librarian in suburban Fort Worth, Texas. She was deeply rooted in her church, often volunteering at Sunday school and organizing bake sales. Her world revolved around her husband, Marcus, and their two young children, Maya and Jordan. From the outside, their life looked picture perfect. But behind closed doors, Danielle had a gnawing feeling something wasn't right. Her husband had become distant, working late, hiding his phone, and treating her like a stranger. She confided in her sister, writing in her journal, "I know there's someone else. I can feel it. I just don't know who or what she wants." She had no idea her instincts were tragically accurate, and that the woman threatening her marriage wasn't just after her husband. She was after her entire life. Marcus Pierce was a charismatic youth pastor, loved by the community, admired by his congregation, and trusted by everyone except perhaps his wife. For over a year, Marcus had been having an affair with Tasha Liddell, a bold, emotionally unstable hairstylist from a neighboring town. Tasha was done being the other woman. She wanted it all: Marcus, the house, the kids, the life Danielle had, and she was willing to do anything to get it. She became obsessed with Danielle, tracking her routines, studying her photos, even recreating her outfits and hairstyles. She told friends chilling things like, "I'm not just taking her man, I'm taking her whole world." On the night of June 14th, 2022, Danielle was supposed to pick up her kids from Vacation Bible School. She never showed. When police performed a welfare check, they found her lying face down on the kitchen floor. Her head had been crushed with a ceramic vase. Her wedding ring was gone, and her children's backpacks were still by the front door. Nothing was stolen, no signs of forced entry. The killer had been invited in. At first, Marcus played the grieving husband. He cried on camera, led the candlelight vigil, even posted Bible verses about trusting God's plan. But within 2 weeks, Tasha had moved into Danielle's house. She was driving Danielle's SUV, wearing her perfume, sleeping in her bed, and most disturbingly, walking Maya and Jordan to school as if she were their new mother. To the neighborhood, it looked like a new couple healing after tragedy. But to police, it looked like guilt. Detectives began digging. What they uncovered stunned them. Marcus had recently taken out a $500,000 life insurance policy on Danielle, one she didn't even know existed. Phone records showed hundreds of late-night calls between him and Tasha before the murder, and near silence after. Forensics discovered Tasha's fingerprints on the kitchen counter, and neighbors recalled seeing her car outside the Pierce home multiple times before Danielle's death. But it wasn't enough until a friend of Tasha's came forward with a secret. The friend turned over a set of deleted voice notes, recovered from an old backup. In them, Tasha could be heard fantasizing about killing Danielle, saying things like, "Once she's out of the way, Marcus and I could be a family. Her kids already love me. I deserve her life." The final note was the most damning. "It's done. I watched her fall. The blood wouldn't stop. But I feel peace. I feel chosen." Tasha had admitted it all in her own voice. Police confronted her and Marcus at the Pierce residence. Tasha was wearing Danielle's old sweatshirt. She had just baked cookies for the kids. As officers moved in, Marcus stood silently at the top of the stairs, arms crossed. Both Tasha and Marcus were arrested and charged in connection to Danielle's murder. But once the trial began, a terrifying new twist emerged. Tasha claimed Marcus planned everything, that he manipulated her, convinced her it was God's will, and promised her the perfect family if she got rid of Danielle. Marcus, on the other hand, insisted he was innocent, that Tasha acted alone, obsessed and unhinged. But the truth may lie in a series of deleted text messages recovered from Marcus's phone, messages that hinted at something far more sinister and deliberate. You know what has to be done. God will forgive us. Just make sure the kids don't see anything." The courtroom was packed. Reporters, church members, neighbors. Everyone wanted to see how this horror story would end. Tasha Liddell was charged with first-degree murder, but she wasn't going down alone. Her defense strategy was simple: blame Marcus. According to Tasha's attorneys, she was manipulated, groomed, and emotionally abused by a man she trusted. They portrayed her as a vulnerable woman who fell in love with the wrong person and was convinced by Marcus that murder was part of God's plan. They presented text messages and voice notes between the two that revealed a disturbing dynamic. In one message, Marcus allegedly wrote, "She's standing in the way of what God wants for us." And in another, "We can't build a future on a broken past. Sometimes the past has to be buried." The prosecution, however, painted a very different picture of Tasha, a woman driven by jealousy, lust, and obsession, who killed not out of desperation, but entitlement. In one of the most heartbreaking moments of the trial, 10-year-old Maya was brought to the stand, protected by a victim advocate and allowed to testify via video. Her voice shook as she spoke. She told the court how Miss Tasha started living with them just days after her mother's funeral, how she slept in her mom's bed, wore her robe, made pancakes the way Danielle used to. Maya even recalled a chilling moment when she asked Tasha about her mom. She said Mommy was in heaven, and that now she was going to be the new Mommy. She said Daddy said it was okay. Gasps filled the courtroom. But what Maya said next stunned even the prosecution. She told the court about a special game she saw her daddy and Miss Tasha playing 2 nights before her mom died, a whispered conversation in the garage, followed by Tasha crying and Marcus saying, "It's almost time." Just when the trial seemed to turn against Tasha, the prosecution introduced new evidence, a recovered surveillance video from a neighbor's home. The timestamp? June 14th, the night of Danielle's murder. In the video, Marcus's car pulls into the driveway at 9:08 p.m. That was during the time Marcus claimed he was still at work. Moments later, a woman matching Tasha's description is seen walking toward the front door, holding what looks like a bag in one hand and a gloved hand in the other. Both of them entered the house. Only Tasha came out. This evidence dismantled Marcus's alibi and suggested he may have been there when Danielle was killed, possibly even helped cover it up. The community that once saw Marcus as a man of God began turning their backs on him. Church members came forward with private text exchanges, inappropriate messages, and rumors of other affairs Marcus had conducted during his time as a youth pastor. One young woman, now 19, testified that Marcus had once told her, "God sends people into our lives for a purpose. Sometimes that purpose is to help remove what's keeping us from our destiny." His words, once considered spiritual, now sounded like the musings of a manipulative predator. As the trial neared its conclusion, prosecutors offered Tasha a deal: testify against Marcus, tell the court everything. In exchange, they'd take the death penalty off the table. Tasha agreed, but the story she told on the witness stand, under oath, was more disturbing than anyone expected. "He told me Danielle wasn't just in the way. She was cursed. That God would punish us if we didn't act. He said I could never be the woman he needed if she was still alive." Then she paused. "And when it was done, he helped me clean the blood off the floor." The courtroom was silent. Even Marcus looked pale. But Marcus wasn't done fighting. His lawyers claimed Tasha was lying to save herself, that she was unstable, violent, and couldn't handle rejection. They promised they had evidence that would prove Marcus was being framed. And that evidence? A letter, handwritten by Danielle, discovered hidden in her Bible just days before closing arguments. In it, she wrote, "If something happens to me, don't believe it was an accident. Marcus has changed. He's not the man I married. He talks about death like it's a doorway to a better life. I'm scared." Danielle's handwritten letter, discovered tucked inside her Bible just days before closing arguments, shook the courtroom. Marcus is not who you think he is. If something happens to me, please protect our children. He's obsessed with this new woman, and he keeps talking like God gave her to him. He said I'm blocking his path. I'm scared. I don't know how much longer I can pretend everything's okay. It was written just 1 week before her murder. The prosecution called it Danielle's last cry for help, a spiritual suicide note. The defense argued it was emotional paranoia, not proof of a murder plot, but the jury had heard enough. Prosecutor's closing statement. Marcus Pierce used God as a weapon. He seduced a vulnerable woman, planted the idea of murder in her head, and stood by as she carried it out. He didn't just cheat on his wife. He planned her execution and replaced her like a piece of furniture. And when his children cried for their mother, he let them be comforted by her killer. Defense's closing statement. Tasha Liddell is a jealous, unstable woman who couldn't accept being second place. She killed Danielle in a fit of rage, and now, to save herself, she's blaming Marcus. But fantasies don't equal facts. There is no hard proof that Marcus planned this, only the word of a woman trying to escape a needle. On April 4th, 2024, after 5 days of deliberation, the jury returned its verdict. Tasha Liddell, guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Marcus Pierce, guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after fact. He received 48 years to life. Marcus didn't cry. He didn't speak. He only looked at his children, sitting beside Danielle's parents in the gallery, and mouthed, "I'm sorry." Maya and Jordan never looked back. Danielle's family was granted full custody of Maya and Jordan. They moved out of the Pierce home, the same kitchen where their mother died, within a week of the trial ending. At night, Maya still has nightmares. She sometimes asks, "Did Daddy really want her dead?" No one knows how to answer. Tasha gave one final interview from her prison cell. "I love Marcus. I would have died for him. I just didn't think I'd have to kill for him. But I wanted his love so badly, I thought maybe that's what love means." To this day, Marcus maintains he never told Tasha to kill Danielle. But no one, not even his own children, believes him anymore. Months after the verdict, a cold case detective was reviewing the Pierce file when he noticed something strange. An old burner phone, found in Marcus's gym bag during the initial search, had gone largely ignored. When it was finally unlocked, they found only 3 messages, sent months before Danielle's murder. One simply read, "Make it look like a break-in." Another, "Take the ring, leave everything else." And the last, "Don't forget, God forgives." For months, the burner phone sat untouched in the evidence locker. No SIM card, no fingerprints, just a cracked screen and 3 eerie messages. "Make it look like a break-in. Take the ring, leave everything else. Don't forget, God forgives." Investigators initially believed the messages were unsent drafts or notes, but further analysis showed they were sent texts delivered to an unknown number just 48 hours before Danielle's death. When police traced the number, it led to a second burner phone, purchased under a fake name, using cash from a convenience store 30 miles outside Fort Worth. The store surveillance footage confirmed the buyer, Marcus Pierce. Friends of the Pierce family said Marcus began changing about a year before Danielle's murder. He grew colder, more secretive, but more disturbingly, he started speaking about Danielle in a detached, even resentful way. One church member recalled a conversation where Marcus said, "Danielle is a good woman, but she holds me back. Sometimes I think God has bigger plans, and I'm not supposed to be with her anymore." Around that same time, Marcus met Tasha Liddell when she visited his church for a women's empowerment event. He approached her after the service, offered to pray with her in private. That prayer turned into coffee. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into sex in the back of her salon. Tasha fell fast, and Marcus, ever the manipulator, told her exactly what she wanted to hear. "God sent you to me. We're soulmates. But the enemy is using Danielle to trap me in the past." 3 months before Danielle was killed, Marcus updated his wife's life insurance policy, increasing the coverage to $500,000. She never signed anything. Marcus, using his position as her financial proxy during a church tax filing, allegedly forged the necessary documents. That same week, he sent Tasha a message that would later become central to the investigation. "One day, you'll wake up in this house with those kids and we'll be free. Keep your heart ready." It wasn't love, it was a plan. A methodical, slow-burn strategy to erase Danielle from the picture. Several women from the church came forward after Marcus's arrest, admitting they had experienced inappropriate behavior from him. Spiritual manipulation, unwanted touching, late-night messages disguised as prayers. One woman, barely 19 at the time, told investigators, "He said if I didn't unite with him, I was blocking God's blessing. He told me sex was sacred and outside the laws of man. He made it sound holy." Marcus had a history of manipulation, especially toward vulnerable women. Tasha, it appeared, was just his most extreme victim. But while some believe she was brainwashed, others argue she knew exactly what she was doing and was willing to kill to keep Marcus. Further digging uncovered another journal, one Danielle kept at work in her school library. Hidden inside a classic novel. In it, she wrote, "If I end up dead, it won't be an accident. Marcus is different. Colder. I saw him hug Maya last night and call her Tasha's name. He's breaking. I think she wants to be me. I think he might let her." Danielle didn't just suspect infidelity. She feared for her life. And she was right. In reviewing financial records, a strange transaction surfaced. $5,000 withdrawn from a church account just 1 week before Danielle's death. The money was transferred to a man named Elias Monroe, a former inmate and small-time criminal with no ties to the church, but a long history of cleaning up crime scenes. Phone records placed Elias near the Pierce home the night of the murder. Was Tasha the one who swung the vase? Or was someone else in the house paid to help finish the job? Elias Monroe wasn't just a petty criminal. He had a long rap sheet, drug possession, weapons charges, even a past assault conviction involving blunt force trauma. After his release in 2020, he'd bounce around odd jobs, including working briefly for a janitorial service contracted by Marcus's church. That's how they met. According to investigators, Marcus quietly stayed in touch with Elias even after firing him, claiming he was helping rehabilitate former inmates. But the truth may be far darker. The $5,000 church withdrawal, authorized by Marcus just a week before Danielle's murder, was labeled as a youth outreach expense. But bank records showed the funds were wired directly to Elias's account. What for? That's what detectives wanted to know. But Elias had vanished. He didn't show up at his listed address, hadn't been to his parole officer in weeks, and his phone was off. Then, in June 2024, he was arrested in Arizona, caught during a routine traffic stop. Inside his car, a blood-stained hoodie, a forged ID, and a journal. What was in the journal would change everything. Elias's journal was written in code, symbols, abbreviations, street slang. But once deciphered, one entry stood out. JP job done. H cleaned up after. Man said she had it coming. Said God forgives. We don't ask questions. JP equals job in Pierce residence. H equals possibly Tasha, or a handler. God forgives equals the same phrase used in Marcus's burner phone text. It wasn't a smoking gun, but it was damn close. When questioned, Elias refused to testify, invoking the fifth. But his presence, combined with the payment trail and Marcus's deleted texts, raised a chilling new possibility. Danielle didn't just die because of a jealous mistress. She died because she was targeted, set up, erased. In an exclusive jailhouse interview recorded for documentary evidence, Marcus Pierce finally spoke on camera, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, Bible in hand. He stared directly into the lens. "I'm not a killer. I never wanted Danielle dead. She was the mother of my kids. But people change. Feelings fade. God's plan isn't always easy to understand." When asked if he ordered the hit, that woman, Tasha, she twisted everything. "I said I wanted a new life, not to end someone else's, but she took it upon herself. And Elias, I didn't pay him to kill. I paid him to help her move out. That's it." But the interviewer pressed harder. "Then why did your daughter say she heard you say, 'It's almost time'?" Marcus looked away. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Sometimes you know something bad is coming, and you just let it happen." In prison, Tasha Liddell caught wind of Marcus's interview, outraged that he was still minimizing his role. She filed an updated statement from her cell. In it, she revealed one final damning secret. Marcus promised me marriage. He said after Danielle was gone, we'd move to Atlanta and start over. But he also promised Elias $10,000 more if the job didn't leave a mess. I was never the only one. He used me, then threw me away. He wanted to erase her, and when he was done, he planned to erase me too. Investigators are now re-examining Marcus's financial records. Was there another plot? This time to silence Tasha? In a final twist, a former church intern came forward with a disturbing voicemail she received just 2 months before Danielle's murder. Don't be scared. God sometimes removes people from our path, so we can rise. If you hear anything, keep quiet. You're part of the future, not the past. The voice on the recording? Marcus Pierce. How many women did he manipulate with God's name? How many lives did he destroy behind the pulpit? And most haunting of all, was Danielle even his first victim? In 2019, 3 years before Danielle's murder, tragedy struck Marcus's church community. A young woman named Raina Walters, just 24 years old, was found dead in her apartment. Her death ruled a suicide. At the time, it barely made the news. No foul play, a bottle of pills, and a handwritten note saying, "I'm sorry I disappointed you, Pastor." But now, detectives are taking a second look. Why? Because Raina had been in private spiritual counseling sessions with Marcus for months leading up to her death. And after she passed, her family found pages of a journal she had ripped up and hidden beneath her bed. One entry stood out. He says, "If I talk, I'm in hell. That I'm not special anymore. I gave him everything, and now he won't even look at me. I feel invisible." Another chilling entry, just weeks before her death, read, "I heard him talking to another girl in the hallway. He's doing to her what he did to me. I feel so dirty." He says it's love, but it feels like death. Investigators now believe Marcus used his role as a spiritual leader to gain access to vulnerable women. Single mothers, struggling teens, lonely wives. He wasn't just cheating. He was grooming, controlling, and in some cases, threatening. 3 former congregants filed formal complaints following his conviction, describing eerily similar patterns. Late-night texts saying, "God told me to reach out." Private deliverance sessions that turned physical. Promises of marriage, followed by cold silence. One woman even testified. He said if I left him, my soul would be cursed, that I'd never find peace again. And I believed him. You'd think a 48-year sentence would silence Marcus Pierce. But even behind bars, he hasn't stopped spreading his message. Using his charm and knowledge of Scripture, Marcus quickly gained influence among inmates. He started a prison Bible group. But it wasn't long before the lines between faith and control blurred once again. One correctional officer reported hearing him tell a young inmate, "God doesn't care what the law says. He judges the heart. If you take a life to serve his will, you're still walking in the light." Sound familiar? Another report claimed Marcus told his followers Danielle was sacrificed for a greater purpose, and that Tasha was chosen but failed the test. Even behind bars, Marcus was rewriting the story, casting himself as a misunderstood prophet, not a manipulative predator. In a heartbreaking interview with local news, Danielle's mother, Danielle Pierce, finally opened up about her daughter's last days. Danielle called me crying 3 days before she died. She said she caught Marcus praying with her daughter and thanking God for sending a new mommy. I told her to pack the kids and come home, but she said she was scared, said he'd never let her leave. Elaine has now started a foundation for domestic violence survivors, dedicated to helping women recognize signs of emotional and spiritual abuse before it's too late. I lost my daughter to a man who wore a suit, carried a Bible, and smiled in our faces while plotting her death. Don't let the title pastor fool you. Monsters wear many masks. Before her death, Danielle made one last phone call to a friend and fellow church member named Nina Morales. Nina never returned the call. Why? Because just hours later, Nina says she received a threatening anonymous voicemail. "Mind your own business. You're not the chosen one. Speak and you'll be next." Investigators have subpoenaed phone records to trace the source of the call, and the number leads back to a burner phone purchased by a church security volunteer. Someone who, according to Nina, was Marcus's right-hand man. Was Marcus building a network of loyal enforcers even before the murder? And how deep does this twisted web of spiritual manipulation and control really go? Church records show Marcus regularly held private Bible studies for select members, meetings that weren't listed on the calendar, and invitations that were only sent via text. They were known internally as the Anointed. At first, these sessions focus on leadership and faith building, but former members now say Marcus used them to manipulate, gaslight, and groom his most loyal followers. One ex-member, Darren Cook, came forward anonymously. He'd say things like, "You're not bound by man's laws, only God's." He told us if anyone ever betrayed him, they were betraying God. It wasn't just spiritual, it was psychological warfare. Another member, a woman named Jolene, revealed he separated us from our families, told us Danielle was spiritually diseased. I believe him when he said she had to go, and I think others did too. A bombshell testimony came from Greg Talbot, a former church volunteer and one of Marcus's closest allies. After a guilty conscience got the better of him, Greg sat down with investigators and revealed a hidden escape plan. Marcus told me, if anything ever went wrong, he had a backup plan. He had cash stashed in a fake wall behind his church office bookshelf. He was going to flee to Mexico with Tasha. He said, once the dust settles, God will guide us to safety. Authorities searched the wall and found $32,000 in cash, several fake IDs, and a passport with a doctored photo of Marcus under a different name. This wasn't a spontaneous crime. It was a carefully orchestrated exit strategy, with Danielle's death at the center of it. Despite being behind bars, Marcus still leads weekly services for inmates. He refers to himself as the broken shepherd and claims Danielle's murder was a spiritual crucifixion meant to test his faith. One prison source said, he's got guys calling him Prophet Pierce. They believe his trial was persecution, not justice. He even says Tasha was Jezebel sent to test his anointing. He's not just unrepentant. He's rebuilding inside prison walls. Corrections officers have raised concerns that Marcus is creating a cult-like faction within the facility, offering blessings in exchange of loyalty and punishing inmates who question his authority by spreading lies or cutting off food trades. It's the same pattern all over again. Maya and Jordan, now living with Danielle's parents, are in therapy. Maya, now 11, recently wrote a letter to her mom for a school project. Her words were read aloud by her grandmother on a local podcast. Dear Mommy, I miss you. I remember your voice and your pancakes. I don't understand why you're not here, but I know you loved us. I hope you're proud of me. I'll never forget you, even if Daddy did. The room fell silent. This wasn't just a crime against one woman. It was a crime against a family, a community, an entire faith. Marcus Pierce is now serving 48 years to life. Tasha Liddell will die in prison, but the emotional damage they left behind continues to ripple. Danielle was silenced, but in her journals, her final letters, and her children's memories, she still speaks. And maybe she's finally being heard. What are your thoughts on this case? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more stories, where each case isn't just about crime, but also offers a lesson for life.